Action. Thank you for selecting to watch this BB Education online cutting tutorial. Be sure to watch our cutting theory video, as it really helps to explain the language we use throughout these videos. Thank you. Welcome to BB Education Online. In today's cutting tutorial, we will be taking you through a round graduation, focusing this technique on creating a shorter haircut. We start the haircut with sectioning a horseshoe section. This is because the horseshoe section is a horizontal line that works equally from recession to recession. A horizontal section will lend itself more to building weight, whereas a vertical section will lend itself more to removing weight. As we are going to be working horizontal, we've opted for this section. You'll notice we've taken some subdivisional sections to get ourselves started. We start cutting at the side, creating a very slight curved line. We then work into the back section, maintaining zero over direction as we pivot from working horizontal into working vertical. I will now begin this haircut. Okay, as we start the cut, we will take a small section here, here and here. The idea is we will be creating a curved line, working into the back of the haircut. I'll take this section first, being sure to come underneath first, to finish by coming down. And my choice of length, I would like the hair to fall just around the ear. The line descends towards the back, so you'll notice that it's shorter going to longer. You must always maintain a parallel body position to your section. To demonstrate this, I will be moving the doll's head throughout this section. We need to review the tension we get from our hands. If I was to cut this section straight through, you'll notice I work past my second knuckle. That will give me an inconsistency in the tension I'm getting, as the tension in front of and behind of this knuckle are different. We need to maintain the same tension throughout, so our section size needs to be considered. We also now need to review the shape we are cutting. As this section is pulled out, it is cut triangular, so it will descend, going to shorter towards the neck, adding to the curve of the line. When we work on this particular section, the section is pulled out vertical. This particular viewpoint will demonstrate that we use a zero over direction when cutting. The section will be pulled directly out and cut vertically triangular. To demonstrate this, I'll move the doll's head slightly over. Be conscious not to cut past the second knuckle. Be sure to keep the hair evenly damp throughout the whole haircut, and to ensure your sections are maintained neat throughout the entire haircut. As we continue working with zero over direction and a vertical cut line, it is important to ensure we do not cut past the second knuckle. We must also consider the choice of length. If we go too short, it may become very difficult around the hairline. You'll notice that the shape is vertically triangular. As the section collapses, the weight is built above the section. We take a fine section and bring that down to the previous. With the side, we run parallel across the previous section. Now we are ready to begin the next section. Before I do this, I'm going to explain a little about the expanded shape from the side. As we bring the hair to a 45-degree angle from here, each time the section is brought to a 45-degree angle, it is slightly higher. So our section, if it was all brought to the same elevation each time, the expanded shape will just go straight off and create a huge amount of width. This is not the case. Our expanded shape is much more going up and round. This is because the section maintains the same elevation each time, but the origin is higher each time. Thereby, the weight is more softly built. Maintain the same size sections you have done. And maintain cutting no further than the second knuckle. When you release, you should see your line, which means your tension has not been too high. You'll see that the section transitions from being pulled horizontal to diagonal to vertical. Once again, we're using no other direction. To demonstrate the vertical shape, we have moved the doll's head slightly off our parallel. I will now begin the other side. Once we have completed one side, we will start the opposite side. But how do we exactly decide on the length? Yes, you could look through a mirror, cut a section, and work down to decide. There's another method that we use. We would actually measure the hair against the comb, like so. By doing this, we'll take the exact same section from the other side. We would pull the section directly out, match it to where it was, and essentially cut a small quantity of hair. We then would just double check this, and it feels exact. So now we will continue with the opposite side. We'll be cutting this side in the exact same fashion. A little tip for cutting. You'll notice my scissors always draw backwards. This is because it helps me to not move the hair in front, allowing for me for a more sharper line. By cutting this section on a diagonal and triangle, you'll notice that the line starts to greatly descend into the back, which means it's dropping lower. This is going to work by working directly around the width of the head. The width of the head at the sides is heaviest around the temporal bone, the widest around the temporal bone. But it's actually widest at the back around the occipital bone. So the width drops around the cranium. So we must build our way to that section. Being conscious to maintain certain disciplines, such as equal moisture in the hair, and not cutting past our second knuckle. We have the same curved line as the other side. We've checked our balance, we've ensured that both sides are indeed correct and match. Now we will continue working through the haircut in the same fashion we have on the opposite side. Now we have got both sides to the same level, we can start to assess the silhouette and start to see that the shape, the expanded shape, is nice and round. I'm now going to be working on the same slight diagonal vertical shape on both sides, working to cross over around the base of the haircut. When this occurs, we will keep working over with the crossover graduation technique, then cross-check our work. I will now begin. Be careful of the size section you choose to take. If the section is too thick, you may not see your guide. You can see our section is vertically triangular, but the horizontal section will be following the head shape round. I will now stop this side and start to work across. As I'm finding, I'm going into the opposite side. Once we have achieved both sides to the same level, we then would work back over and cross over the sections. Maintaining zero over direction. You will see the shape is building its weight around the occipital bone. We must now cross-check our work before continuing. What is cross-checking? Cross-checking is an effective way of checking our progress within the haircut. How do we cross-check? We go the opposite way which we've been cutting. So our sections have been a slight vertical diagonal. So we're going to be working a horizontal section to cross-check. So let's go through and check our work so far. We've been working round horizontal, so you'll see the shape is round. It follows the head shape. So once we've checked through the work and we are satisfied that our progress is consistent, we will move on to the top. So now we come to showing you our cross-checking. We mentioned cross-checking as a vital component to assessing how we're doing throughout the haircut. And simply the cross-checking is going the opposite way than we've cut. So when I pull my section up, you'll notice the section is rounded on its edge. This is giving us an equal fall of length all the way around and an equal build-up of weight horizontally. Our vertical shape is of course triangular, which is building weight vertically. I'll now continue by releasing the top section and showing you how we connect this all together. Okay, we've released the top and taken a slight parallel horizontal section, simply running directly parallel to the section we've just taken. This section will become straight out, drop down to a 45-degree angle or back to previous, and we'll be cutting the same round shape that's underneath. I'll now begin. From the frontal view you'll be able to see the angle from which we take this section. We exclude the majority of this section as we don't want to take too low elevation, as this will build up far too much length and weight. Maintaining the discipline to only cut to our second knuckle. We will not be working directly to the crown, as that would mean we'd have to move our body position to follow the line. We will come to the crown later. We will now work parallel sections, working back to previous, which means the elevation will it actually increase? You'll begin to see that my elevation has slowly increased from the very first section, working up. We will now begin the opposite side. Again, we will come to the crown at the end. As we approach our last section, we must take note to maintain the same elevation. We now work to the crown. We will be working with a crossover graduation technique, utilising guidelines from both the sides and the back. It is important to be consistent with the elevation choice from the sides. The elevation will not be taken too high or too low. You'll note we now meet the guide from the side, will now meet the guide from the back. Working on a diagonal aids us to build the weight line around the curve of the head. This is really key to this shape. We're working a round graduation, which really builds itself around the curve of the head. The curve, as we mentioned, drops lower around the occipital bone, where at the sides the weight really is around the temple bone. So working on a crossover technique really lends itself to building the weight on a curve. I will continue on the other side. Take note how the elevation changes from working below the crown to actually now working above the crown. One of the final steps is we would go horizontal across the crown. And as you can see, the shape is round, so we do not need to cut any hair off. We will now move to the front. We will now start at the front. The sections are working parallel to the hairline. In a similar crossover graduation technique, we'll be utilising the lengths from the front to create our shape at the front here. I'll position the head slightly upright. It's important not to apply too high a tension. You'll notice I allow the tension to be kept in the comb only. Working both sides in this manner is a great demonstration of how the balance has been previously set. Working from one side to the other allows for us to really see and check our balance once more. We're going to continue our sections, but we will be having a slight lift in elevation as we've done with all the previous sections. We will now review the top. Now we come to cut the top. We will take a profile section to help us assess the correct shape and to ensure we are working fluid. So what is a profile section? A profile section is taken directly across the highest part of the profile of the head, enabling us to cut a consistent shape in, acting as a guideline when we work across the top. This shape is going to be round. We're going to lift the section directly up. My advice would be to not cut too large a section, as you'll have more tendency to work square than round. Simply halve the section, remove it, bring a smaller amount to you, work square to the head. And you'll notice that then our points blend together. If we'd taken too large of a section, we'd have had a tendency to work square, 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 and not have the round shape. We will now begin to cut the top, utilising our new guide. The section we choose to take is horizontal, working straight across the parietal bone. This enables us to utilise the three guidelines we now have, one each from the sides and one from the top. As the section comes up, you'll see we have the guide from the side and we have the guide from the top, and there's the side. We are still working round. You'll notice there's a lot less hair coming off at the front. That's because we layered the front through with a slight elevation. So you'll notice that when we come to cut the front, there's very little hair coming off. I will now dry the style, and then I'm going to refine the external shape and cross-check once more. Okay, once the hair is dry, we are really able to make an assessment of our external shape. We have not yet cut in our baseline. Let's have a slight review of this shape so far. Bearing in mind we have an unrefined line, so we can see refining is needed. But we can also see the internal shape is consistent and the silhouette is beautiful. Look at the front of the style. I've opted to have a very slight side part on this style. I will be refining the line in really tight and close. I will also be using a refining technique of pointing the hair to collapse the line slightly to give a slightly more natural fluid line. Let's begin at the back. I would advise using the wide part of your comb for this, as it will give you less tension and slightly less control. So as we groom through the hair, we're going to be taking a round external line. You'll notice that the free hand that holds the comb is also there to secure the scissor. As we're removing a very small amount of hair at a time, it is important that the scissor is more stable. Remembering we check our line in three ways. One is under the line, one is above the line, and from a distance. You would usually use the mirror on the salon floor for this. You would look through the mirror, allow your eyes to adjust, and make an assessment of the form based on what you see. We're now going to begin to really curve this line up and in. Regroom the hair, holding the comb at both ends. working through very slowly and flat to the contour of the head. This will give you some control, whereas moving very fast will actually push the hair off the scalp. We now need to move the head so that I'm maintaining a square posture. Again, we regroom the hair in the same fashion. But by doing so, we do gain control. Remembering the reason behind the pointing technique is that we can also create a curved line. It's very difficult to create a curved line by simply cutting directly into the line. This is used more to creating a straight line. Creating a curved line, we would use the very tip and move round. You can begin to see where we are connecting the lines in. However, we have the client's face to consider. It would not be appropriate to continue to cut against the skin of the client's face. So we would simply slide our comb in, pull our comb out, and go straight down. By doing this, we have a slight guard from the client's face. Yes, we do have a slight elevation to consider, but the slight elevation is fine, as it's at the part of the face that the client will move their hair regular. Once we are happy with this particular area, we will move the head positioning to the front. We need to make an assessment of the suitability of our line based on what the client will see in the mirror. Thank you for watching our BB Education online cutting tutorial. Remember to check www.bbeducationuk.co.uk for all our up and coming dates, offers and news. Thanks for watching, guys.